Hey everybody, it's Monster back again with Opus Gaming, and I'm here today to bring you guys my Red Nova Seaworm deck that I piloted at the Battle Spirit Saga launch event in Las Vegas this past weekend. I had a lot of fun in the event. I actually managed to top 128, and we'll talk about kind of how I feel about my placing and kind of like the preparation I did before the tournament and the tournament itself at the end of the video here, as well as talking about the channel. But we'll just jump straight into the deck profile with starting off with some of the lower end cards that I played. So starting off, we had 4 Overraptidon as our vanilla 1-drop, 4 of the Dinoman Tyrannoid, 3 Blade Dino Parasaur, and 1 Blazing Boar. So we'll start off with the spirits. For the deck profile first, we'll start off with the one of Blazing Boar. This card was pretty decent, but the most I would do is use it to grab back a Overraptidon from my hand so I could play it out for free to get like additional crystals, which is a pretty decent value play. But I feel like throughout the day, it just didn't get me into a position where I was winning games that I was losing before, or really get me into a position that was like very much stronger than I was before or anything like that. So cycling the card was kind of nice every once in a while, but it wasn't crazy impactful. Blade Dino Parasaur is actually pretty good during the day though. Being a Pterosaur, so it reduces your Gigano towards the later game, and having it be able to draw you a card as you go is actually really strong. If you can get off on the right foot, establish a Nexus, and then get this out on the board as an attacker, and set up a couple little defenders, or if you're not too worried about the early damage from your opponent because you're trying to get to your Seaworm play, this card actually facilitates that a lot, and during the day it was actually really useful. I really enjoyed playing it, and I would maybe consider playing it at 4, but only in like a Pterosaur deck. The biggest thing that it came in to help was that it was a Pterosaur that I could just kind of float on the board. So getting into the last couple ones, the Dinoman Tyrannoid, I don't have too much to say about it other than the fact that it was just like very good throughout the day. A lot of times I wouldn't go into a really wide board until the later game, so I would either use this as a really good defender because when you have 1 or 2 spirits, he's treated as level 3, which is a 6,000 power card that can come down for 1 cost with 1 core on it. Really depends on the matchup. I was really prepared more so for like the red matchups, and I was decently tested against white and things like that. But throughout the day, most of my matchups were red. I played a couple purple, and that was actually the bane of my existence, was the purple. So when I would bring him out and just leave a core on him, well, you couldn't just leave a core on him because he would just get core stripped out. So you would have to put a couple cores on him anyway. So sometimes it wouldn't be too bad to go wide. But Dino Man, I could see myself going down on. It was a good card, but yeah, it just had like some impact issues. And last but not least, Overraptidon. This card was really good, but I wish I would have known more about like Bearded Eagle and those other cards, because testing them for the side events and stuff the next day, they were very, very good. But for Overraptidon just being a 1-drop that you can just play, get an extra crystal out for nothing, as well as something that Blazing Boar can pick up, was actually pretty decent. So just make sure we got everything still in frame. I'll push these over. All right, getting into the Seaworm engine here. Oh, that's Gigano Rex, sorry. We have 3 of the Supernova Dragon Seaworm Nova, 2 of the Nebula Dragon Andromeda, and 4 of the Imperial Thunder Dragon Seaworm. Really, the ratios on these are just for consistency. So with the 3 Nova Dragon, I felt like for this being my top end card, I didn't need to see it all too much. And when you only need to see like 2 in a game, copies 3 and 4 can really just be like dead bricks when you see them early in the game. So I didn't want to play more than 3, and I felt like 4 for the really good Imperial Thunder Dragon Seaworm going into the Supernova Dragon Seaworm was a really good ratio, and it was something I was going to see throughout the day. So I ended up just playing 3 of the 8-drop, and this was very good for me throughout the day. The biggest area where I thought that maybe I should have played 4 was in the mirror match, just because it's a value. It's really just about getting value between you and your opponent. But I ended up winning all my mirror matches, and the 3 of it ended up just being perfectly fine. So Nebula Dragon Andromeda. This card was very, very good throughout the day. It helped me manage my opponent's nexuses, as well as coming down for a 4K body was just really, really nice all day. 4K put in a lot of work just because your opponent's little removal couldn't remove it very efficiently. So your opponent was kind of stuck in a spot to really have to deal with these or not be able to remove these. And then the next turns, you're putting these up to higher levels with more cores. So they were really, really good. And last, we have Imperial Thunder Dragon Seaworm. This card was really good because it turns on your recovery effect with your 8-drop Seaworm. I didn't really use it all too much other than just a confront unit at levels 1, 2, and 3 when I did use it as a regular unit. Sometimes it would come down on the board and kind of like poke damage on my opponent or get rid of my opponent's board before I'm able to drop my Nova if I'm still searching for combo pieces. But for the most part, playing this at 4 was like perfectly fine. There's not really too much to say about it because this is just a piece of a bigger combo. But yeah, the ratio was really good. So, all right, getting it into the next piece, the next boss card is going to be Jahmade. I played 2 of it and it was amazing. It was very, very good today. The only red match that I lost was 2 Pterosaurs, a pure Pterosaur like rushdown deck. So that was really, really rough because I didn't understand how much that deck like rushed down. But Jahmade was one of the cards that came down in the mid game that really, really helped me kind of reestablish myself. And in the future, I would play this at maybe even like a 3 of just because it's so easy to drop with. In this version of the deck, the TerraNova deck, when you're playing all Pterosaurs, Emperor Beasts on your low end, you kind of just, in the early game, you can bring this guy out for, once you have 3 of them, he only costs 2, and you put a core on him. That's only 3 cores, and you have one of your very early boss cards. So this card is fantastic, and I might just build Pterosaur by themselves because that card is so good. So getting into, sorry, I'm moving the deck profile kind of to the slide here, but getting into the magic cards, we'll talk about the combo piece first. We play 3 of the Big Bang Energy. This is just a piece of the combo. It's pretty important. And it's kind of usable with like giving yourself plus 2k DP, but playing 3 of it was totally fine just because you see it decently consistently. So I'm gonna try to put these, yeah, we'll start magic cards over here. That looks kind of perfect. Next up, I played Volcanic Break. 2 Volcanic Breaks were really good. I don't know if I would play 3 or if I would actually go down on it just because it's something your opponent can play around. I didn't use it a lot during the flash step to remove my opponent's attacking spirits, but I would use it quite frequently in the main step to remove my opponent's like bigger spirits to keep them down on core reduction on their side of the board. So if they have like a powerful, you know, like a Alice, I'll remove it. I'll remove Alice at 6k with this. And then on their next turn, they have 1 less yellow crystal to reduce their play cost. And I found a lot of value in that. It wasn't very good as like a battle trick or a flash trick. So I liked it at 2 though. That was totally perfectly fine. One card that's definitely not going to ever change though is the 4 Burning Force. 4 Burning Force was perfect. You saw it the perfect amount. It helps you with your opponent's like kind of rushy style strategies, where this one I did use in the flash quite frequently. I'll pop 2 of your 3Ks on your last attack of the turn so that you don't have any standing defenders for my turn. And that strategy was really, really good for me. I really enjoyed Burning Force. There's not too much to say about it other than it was just very strong. So next up, we're going to talk about the draw engine. This is something that's really, really simple and that you're going to see in pretty much every TerraNova deck or every Nova deck in general. But just 4 and 4, it's really consistent. There's not a lot of times I would suggest playing this straight out the gate unless it's the only thing that you can when you're only on 4 crystals going first to draw 2, because your opponent can really put you down on low life. And if you don't see your combo super early, then you're just kind of screwed out of the game, right? Because you can just get rushed down from that point by not having spirits on the board. But they both were very, very useful throughout the day. One thing I must say though is that Starburst draw is amazing. I didn't practice very much before the tournament. I was only able to play for like 7 days before the tournament and a little bit of like research play, I would call it, before like a couple months ago. I was supposed to be recording and stuff for the channel, but we just, with work and stuff, I just wasn't able to. So really a lot of my testing came the week before with a deck that was not this deck, so I was just learning the game. And then when we got our product, I did a lot of content creation for you guys on YouTube, so I didn't get to play right away out the gate. And the reason I'm talking about how much I got to test and how much I got to play is that I didn't realize how good Starblast Draw was into the purple matchup until after I lost my first purple matchup for sure, and then I was going into the second one, and it was like halfway through the game, right? Just because I wasn't sure, like I did see a couple when summon effects come down, but I wasn't 100% sure if they were going to consistently come down, because if you side this in against something like white, or you just set it against white or red, it can take so long for it to trigger. So I just taught myself to just hold them in hand and use them like that. But I do think that there is a lot of value in setting these against purple, and I didn't know that, and I think that's part of the reason why I lost both my purple matchups in Swiss. So that was a little bit rough, but that's just something to touch on why playing 4 Starblast Draw is so good and so important. Next up, we have 4 Absolute Ice Shield. There's actually nothing to say about this other than it's a staple. It's your defensive card. Some games truly do come down to seeing how many Absolute Ice Shields you can see in a game. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a really strong card. but I just really like the card. It's a staple. Everybody was playing four of, and if you weren't playing four of, you definitely were at a disadvantage, and I'm sure that you noticed that. And last but not least, we'll get into before we get into my tech choice, we'll get into the Nexus choice that I played. So it was one Sacred Thundering Peaks and three Volcanic Canyon. The three Volcanic Canyon I wish was four, and the Sacred Thundering Peaks was good because it was like I wanted to be able to go push for game with my confront units, right? So I wanted to Big Bang Energy, drop a bunch of confront guys, and get the first one to attack twice. So I basically have an extra spirit for free on the big combo plays. But at the end of the day, consistency is key, and I feel like getting a draw Nexus would have been better throughout the day. This also came up during my matches where I was playing against what I thought was going to be the style of rush deck, which was going to be the 2-cost rush yellow deck. I thought I was going to play against that, and I would use this to kind of ram my Overraptidons, right, or my Tyrannoids, right, that are maybe at a lower power because I have a wider board. Ram those on the defense, and then pick up an Overraptidon to hand, play out the Overraptidon, use that as my defender, and kind of cycle that so I can have a spirit for every defensive cycle. That was the idea. It didn't play out so much like that. Sacred Thundering Peaks was pretty decent. I think I used it twice throughout the day, but I do kind of wish I had a more solid Nexus lineup for the day. It would have made my deck feel more consistent. And last but not least, I played two Drowsy Fumes. This card was fantastic. This card actually overperformed for me all throughout the day. The reason I added it in was because I was scared of the Enterprise matchup and how to fully deal with it. And the way that I thought about dealing with it was just that they're 12k. My biggest guy is 12k. I obviously have Gigano Rex to boost my guy to 15k so that they cannot defend against my big attacks. But for the situations where I'm swinging with like a 10k guy, or if I'm swinging with my 12k guy and they just want to trade so they can get my Nova off the board so I can't keep popping everything, or they have a battle trick of their own, I would battle trick minus 2,000 power from their card just so my card would win the battle. And that's just how I plan to out the Enterprise. The way it came out today was that this was removing spirits that were attacking, like if you put one core on a 1-drop vanilla and swung with it at 1,000, I would kill it with this. If you're attacking with something and you're trying to just like get rid of my Gigano Rex, you're swinging with like an 11k power card or a 10k power card, I would use this to force an out on your card as well if I have to defend with like one of my big bodies and stuff like this. It was just a battle trick, and there's a lot of ways to use it. But just minusing down my opponent's cards to make my cards either win or trade with them was really useful all day. And the reason I really like this was that it just costs 2. There's almost no situation where you don't have access to 2 extra cores to be able to play it. So that's what I enjoyed about it. Talking about my side deck, I'll just do the side deck kind of down here and we'll just layer it off. We'll do it one at a time. 2 Counter Sword. I did like my side deck actually all day. It was very strong, but it's a very simple side deck. So 2 Counter Sword. This was for the red Nova mirror match, and it came up almost every time. I did side this in against purple as well towards my last game, but I never saw it, so that was unfortunate. Dream Bomb was the MVP. This card was amazing. There's so many ways that you use it. You can use it in the red matchup to bounce your Nexuses and kind of tempo them out. In the later game, when you're on like 3 cores, when you're not ready to set your Ice Shield, you can set this and your opponent will push damage onto you. And if your opponent's being overly aggressive, right, you can take so much damage, and then when they take that last core that you're willing to give up, you'll flip the Dream Bomb, you'll pay the cost for them to activate main, and I'll bounce your last attacking guy / your last defending guy that you can leave standing, and then that leaves me as a kind of like full throttle to just kind of use all my spirits on my next turn to just attack through. So that's one of the ways that I really liked using Dream Bomb, and Dream Bomb came in as a 4 of in every single game. I sided out 4 cards in every game out of my main and brought in Dream Bombs as just a universal out to cards. I didn't know what my opponent was going to bring in, as well as a universal just kind of like early game Nexus to set, and it overperformed in that slot. 1 Scorched Battlefield. This came in against... Oh man, it was really for the red matchup, but it really came in against that TerraNova deck that I got really ran through. And I'm just not 100% sure if putting this in the side was the move. I should have had this in the main and had my other Nexus in the side. But one of the things that I also should have done was just bring this in as a 6th Nexus in games 2 and 3. But it was just kind of like more of a hindsight thing. During the match, it's so much learning and so much remembering and stuff that it was kind of just hindsight is 2020 on this kind of situation. But I did like it in the side. It was pretty good. And then last but not least, 3 Divine Halberd Dragon Arc. My general theory for this was I didn't want to get Rookie Rush, essentially. I still got Rookie Rush because in this game, the Rookie Rush kind of strategy is just like the low-end Pterosaur cards that have high power, so they don't even get countered by this. This came in a couple times throughout the day. There was a red mirror match that I brought this in where my opponent was kind of like low-end rushing me, and this came in and put a lot of work in that matchup. But yeah, my side deck all day was pretty good. These came in every once in a while. I had a specific matchup for everything, but the 4 Dream Bomb coming in every game was really, really cool. And I actually think I have a cool idea for a different kind of main deck for this and when I'm going to rebuild it. But if you guys have made it this far into the video and you're not subscribed, I'd really appreciate you guys dropping a sub. We're on our way to our first 1,000 subscribers, and we're at, we just hit 500. We're already almost about to hit 570, so thank you guys for all your support. And all my friends and everything like that, and everybody that just enjoys the content, that just wants to support and show some love, leave a like, leave a comment. I'd really appreciate it. It pushes the video onto the algorithm. You guys already know that at this point, but let's talk about my tournament run and just kind of some of my thoughts. This deck was really, really strong. I think that I want to play more of a Nova Dragon focus deck and build more of a Pterosaur deck as separate entities, just because the Pterosaur stuff did a lot of really cool things for this deck. But with the way that I played the deck and with the way that I interacted with the meta, I think that doing Seagworm, not as a rush style deck, but as more of a mid-range deck actually, would be really cool. So that's going to be my next venture with the deck. I had so much fun playing the event. And like I said, I didn't get to test as much as I'd like. So like going through the early matches, I was doing very good. I had a very strong understanding of the game and I was playing against a lot of like good opponents. And it gave me a lot of confidence to be like, I can make day 2. Going into my first purple matchup, not knowing the matchup very well and trying to learn it on the fly was very hard because there was a lot to learn, and I ended up losing that one. Going into my second purple matchup, it was the same thing, but my opponent was very tested. He said he had been playing for the past few months. He was a very, very nice guy. I'm sorry I'm blanking on your name, homie, but it was I believe it was around round 5 or round 6. But he was super, super nice, and that was my second loss of the day. I still tried to have a positive attitude after that point. After that, I won another game, but we'll go through my tournament run after that. And then my last loss was to Pterosaur Rush, and I just didn't know I didn't know that deck existed. There we go. And the thing with that was just wasn't prepared for cards that could swing at higher than 4K and be very wide and attack you just aggressively. I was trying to play slightly aggressive back towards them, and I think that was kind of where I made a mistake. I should have pedaled into this deck's more mid-range strengths for that matchup, but it's a learning curve. That's kind of one of the things where I wasn't tested as my opponent, and my opponent beat me in that match, and then he was able to make top 64 with an X2 record, and I think that I was doing super good. My tiebreakers were good as well, and if I would have won that match, I do think I could have made it into that bracket, but you never know. I did end up making top 128, so I was in the top half of the or the top, like I think it was like 30% of the players that went X3 with my tiebreakers, which was just really, really lucky squeezing into that last 128 slot. But my tournament run essentially went like this. Round 1, I played the red mirror against a pretty cool guy. He was pretty new to the game, and actually the game came down to we were going almost into time, and he tried to use an absolute ice shield on his last life, unfortunately. I thought that he had a on play Nexus set, so I was playing around that, and I ended up going for a really big swing turn. He wanted to absolute ice shield on the last health. On the last core, I explained to him how it worked. He was super cool, and then yeah, I was able to get that game 2-1. Next round, I played another mirror, and this was against the red Star Dragon kind of rush style deck player. And against that one, it was a very close match, but I was able to take it 2-0. Drowsy Fumes was a huge player in that game, so that was nice, as well as the Divine Halberd Dragons coming in for game 2. Round 3 was my first loss, and that was against a now friend, actually, the purple player, who was playing a Curse Control purple deck. That one, or a Core Control purple deck. That one, I was just very inexperienced in it. I had a bunch of Star Blessed draws, and I didn't set a lot of them, and then actually I got a judge call during that match because I accidentally activated my Star Blessed draw as a burst, and then I didn't have the cost reduction to make it a 2 cost, so I paid 2 and drew 2. But I didn't realize that I didn't have the cost reduction on the board, so it was a mistake I made. And I got a warning for that from the judge call, but the judge was super nice, my opponent was super nice, and it was all good. It was just a part of the game. Going in, so I ended up losing that in a very tight game. We ended up going into time and onto the last swing of the game, and I just didn't have, he had the perfect defense. He had like a I can't remember the Deadly Balance card in the very last like part of the attack where he needed it. So going into round 4, that was my first yellow matchup. Super cool guy from Las Vegas. He was having a blast, and which made me have a blast during the match. I was able to take it in a very grindy 2 games, but yellow just has a very disadvantaged match versus red. So going into my next round was another red mirror match. I was able to take it. It was a very simple match. Actually, my opponent just didn't see his combo, and I actually was able to see my perfect combo on both games. So it was kind of like I took an early curve and then just super hard ramped into my very big Supernova Dragon Play cleared board, and then I was sitting out a very strong position. Going into round 6 now, this is where I suffered my second loss versus purple. This one was really, really rough. My opponent was very strong, very, very well versed. But during this match, I passed a total of 3 turns where I just didn't do anything. I cored up and I passed because I was bricking that hard. And I think that that part was to my ignorance to when I should mulligan. I should have mulliganed my hand because I only had 1 starter card and no real cycle in my hand. But that's my fault. I thought that I was going to be able to get away with it because that's kind of how I played the deck. As long as I had a starter, I would make do because I didn't want to go too far behind on card advantage against my opponent. But in that matchup, that really taught me A, about the purple setting your nexuses, and then B, just really thinking about when you have to mulligan and what pieces that you need for a matchup, because mulliganing isn't too bad. So, and then going into what was going to be the final round, round 7, played against TerraNova Rush. Super cool homie. His name was Jahmade. He was very, very kind. And he was very, very kind as he wrecked me. he destroyed my deck. He ran through my life. I wasn't fully ready for some of the cards. That one guy that comes out, he can be like an 8K for 3 cores, I believe. A lot of the TerraNova stuff he was just very ready for the matchup. He played out like the Nebula Dragon and had this chilling at 10K. In a proper setup. He very much so played his deck very properly. So that was gonna be my tournament run. I had a blast, man. I had a lot of fun. I was a little bit tilted after losing that last round there, just because I was very, very confident in my skills and I was having a lot of fun. But honestly, after results came out, making top 128 and really taking a step back and looking at how much some of these guys who made top 32 practice and playtested, even some of my friends from Minnesota that were playtesting, they had been playing for like over a month already. And for me, only having 6 days of playing, only having, a few hours the night before, or not just a few hours, we played for hours the night before, but only having the night before for like real testing, I'm very proud with like some of my deck choices. Some of my techs didn't come in as nicely as I thought, like the Sacred Thundering Peaks, but altogether, I was very, very proud of my deck. I was really, really happy with the way it played. I was really, really happy with the way I performed. And I'm really looking forward to making some deck edits and like taking this to the next level. So like I said before, if you guys made it this far, drop a sub, leave a like, leave a comment. But at the end of the day, this is Jahmade with Opus Gaming. I'm out. Take care, guys.